If you went to a State Board of Education meeting, you would see a lot of staff scurrying around and preparing drafts and writing rules and interacting with the State Board. Those are all TEA employees. The State Board has no staff, has no appropriation. They are purely an elected policy-making body. 15-member bodies, single-member districts. The Texas Constitution requires that there be a State Board of Education. You can't not have one. But it leaves to the legislature how the State Board of Education is selected and what the qualifications are. In the past, it's been appointed, it's been a convening of other elected officials, but for the last 20-odd years, it's been elected from 15 single-member districts. These are enormous districts. They're twice the size of a state senate or congressional district. The member from El Paso has Laredo in his district. Think about that in terms of a campaign. And so what I'm going to talk about is four big things that they do. They have a lot of policy-making requirements, but there are four things they do that are really crucially important, two of them more than anything else. And the first is managing the permanent school fund. The permanent school fund in Texas is a dedication of land which over time has been sold off and drilled for oil, and it is now worth about $23 billion with a B dollars. About $19 billion of that is managed by the State Board of Education as the investment assets. The rest is still land and managed by another agency. So they make the decisions about how much of this is stock, how much is bonds, how much is foreign equity, how much is hedge funds. All of those kinds of decisions, they have a very, very broad grant of authority directly from the Texas Constitution to manage this fund. They have a lot of leeway. The fund also guarantees bonds issued by Texas school districts and gets them a AAA rating, which is a really cool free lunch for those of you with a financial background. The other really important thing that the State Board does, and I'm compressing two roles here, is define the curriculum and adopt the textbooks. And this is really all part of the same thing. This is the most important step in our education system. The legislature has delegated to the State Board, this is a statutory structure, to write the elements of what are now the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS, that say you must learn this thing in third grade, we're going to learn fractions in fourth grade, we're going to have multiplication tables in this grade, here's the history and science stuff at each of the levels, and then when you get to high school they start defining courses. What is algebra? It's in an administrative rule that the State Board of Education has written to define that. And then behind it, the State Board of Education adopts textbooks. The curriculum becomes the bid specs for the textbooks. The State Board is fairly constrained in the adoption of textbooks, with relatively minor exceptions. They have to adopt any textbook proposed that covers the entire curriculum, but they have great latitude in defining that curriculum. That's where the real authority is. This is absolutely crucial because this is the beginning of a conveyor belt that drives all of our education system. The curriculum is established. About 2 years later, textbooks that conform to that curriculum are adopted and sent out to the school districts and charters. About 2 years after that, TEA, now we've moved to the agency role, has field tested and developed the tests, what you now think of as the tax tests, that then drive, again, the agency role, the accountability system, that rate the school districts and the campuses within the school districts as good, bad, or indifferent, or other categories. So those are the two really big things that the State Board does, permanent school fund and the curriculum and textbook adoptions. They do two other things I want to mention that are important but less so. One is they have the role of granting charters in Texas. And this is really creating a freestanding LEA, local education agency, of sort of equal dignity of a school district. It is a big deal. I've demoted it a little bit because they're out of charters. There's a cap of 215. They've granted, I think, 213 of them. That's just not very active right now because they've run out, but it's a very important role. The other thing I would mention is that there is still a third state agency, the State Board for Educator Certification, which is the licensing body for Texas teachers, principals, superintendents, a lot of other roles in the school district. When they do their administrative rules to say this is what a teacher must know to teach math in our schools, for example, the State Board of Education, in effect, has a veto over those rules. So as SBEC, the State Board for Educator Certification, which we also staff, makes its rules, goes through that process, those rules have to make a stop at the State Board of Education and not be vetoed before they can go into effect.